Welcome to AI Nation. Today we are talking about AI generated QR codes like this. Why? Because a lot of people have been asking me about it. Actually, nobody really asked me, but I think they are pretty cool. Mostly because it's a really cool application of generative AI, especially how you can have some control over the output of the latent diffusion model or the control net that drives the output of the diffusion model, which is a massive leap forward from where we started with latent diffusion model a few years back. So I think we should spend some time and look into how does it work and what are the outcomes of it. So let's jump in. So generating the QR code is pretty simple. You just Google AI QR code generator Hugging Face, and you click the first option that pops up on Google, and it will take you to this Hugging Face project's QR code AIR generator page. So I have this open here. All you have to do is put in your prompts and the URL that you want to generate the QR code for, or any message or any plain text will work. Put it here, and the prompt goes here, and we will talk about these three scales. Here, but before we jump into that, let's talk about this instructions that is given at the top on the Hugging Face page. So it says the strength parameter defines how much noise is added to your QR code. So we have this strength parameter set to 0.9. So the strength parameter, the higher the strength, the more noise is added to the input image. This is how the stable diffusion model works. It basically cuts through the noise and creates an image from a noisy image, as we know from the stable diffusion paper. For additional context, it might be useful to know that the control net takes additional conditional control as input. And in this case of AI generated QR code, the control is that the model has to generate a QR code. In that way, it's very similar to an image to image translation. A recent article came out of Israel-based AI company called Desi AI that explains the effect of strength parameter on generated images. Since the value of strength parameter varies from 0 to 1, here is something that will be very useful while playing around with this parameter. A near zero strength means that the outcome is nearly identical to the original image, and setting a strength to 1 means the outcome will be vastly different from the original image. The same principle goes in AI generated QR codes, where if you set the strength to 0, the generated output will look like a simple QR code. But if you set the parameter to 1, the output will be very creative, and the images will vastly vary from a simple QR code. And then it says, and the noisy QR code is then guided towards both your prompts and QR code image via control net. So the vanilla stable diffusion only works with the prompt. So it starts with a noisy image, and the prompt guides the neural network towards a meaningful image. But in this case, because we are using control net, which means we have another neural network architecture that sort of creates more conditions on the stable diffusion. And in this case, the control net is the QR code content. It can either be some string, some raw text, or URL, which makes more sense because mostly we use URLs for QR codes. Then it says use a high strength value between 0.8 and 0.95 and choose a conditioning scale between 0.6 and 2.0. So what is this control net conditioning scale? So let's look at that. And to do that, we can read about control net on the Hugging Face page. And here it says we present a neural network structure control net to control pre-trained large diffusion models to support additional input conditions. And like I said, the additional input conditions in this case is the QR code that we are generating and the control is the text or the URL. So if we look at the parameters inside the network, we have this parameter called control net. What it does is that it provides additional conditioning to the unit structure that is present in the stable diffusion model during the denoising process. And if you know about the original paper of UNet, it basically can be used for denoising images, which is part of the architecture of stable diffusion. And if we go deeper into the parameters, we can see there is this parameter called control net conditioning scale, which is a float, which is exactly what this one, control net conditioning scale. So let's see what's inside this. It says the outputs of the control net are multiplied by the control net conditioning scale before they're added to the residuals, the residual connection in the original unit structure of stable diffusion, which means additional weights are coming from this control net neural network and being added to the residual in the unit structure, which sort of provides additional conditioning in the control net on top of the vanilla stable diffusion model. And it says if multiple control nets are specified in init, you can set corresponding scale as a list. In this case, we don't care about this last statement. And finally, we have guidance scale. And if you have used stable diffusion, you know that guidance scale is basically how much weight you are putting on the original prompt. So it's basically a trade-off between control net conditioning scale and guidance scale. So if you put higher value for guidance scale, your output will be focused more on the text prompt and not on the control net. But if you put higher weightage on the control net conditioning scale, I think you will get better output because the focus should be the URL. So now that we have talked about the parameters inside this QR code AI art generator, let's see where we can give our inputs. So we have this text box that says QR code content. So, and it's expecting some URL or some QR code content. So let's go and give it some input. So if we are talking about our AI Nation page, let's create a QR code for the podcasts page. So we come here, we copy the URL, including HTTPS, and we paste it here. And for the prompt, you can give anything, but what I have found is that it looks better if you add prompts regarding nature. So for example, there are 3 example prompts at the bottom of this page, and all of them are sort of creates images of nature. So for example, the first one is a sky view of colorful lakes and rivers flowing through the desert, bright sunshine coming through the cracks of a wet cave wall of big rocks. So let's try something new. So I'm gonna say sunshine coming through the walls of tall buildings in New York City. And we don't mess with these parameters for now, but we can do that later. But first, let's just generate one QR code and see what it gives us. So it usually takes around 20 to 30 seconds to generate the QR code. And if you read the last sentence here, there is a caution as well. If the generated image looks way too much like the original QR code, make sure to gently increase the strength value and reduce conditioning scale. So it's talking about if you have a QR code, you can add it here and in that case you don't have to add the QR code content, and you can generate a updated QR code with the AI art as well. So it's something to be mindful of. So here is our QR code. So we have the sunshine, we have tall buildings, and we have the QR code. I think we can do a little bit better, but first let's just save this. So after I have saved it, let's try something new. Before that, let's just look into the negative prompt. Of course, you don't want to mess with these, but you can if you want to. For example, you don't want your output to be disfigured or look bad. So that is why you have the first two options. You don't want it in low quality, you don't want it blurry, and of course, because you ideally want to show your QR code to others, you probably shouldn't have NSFW content in your QR code, but if you don't care about it, you can remove it if you want. But for now, I'm gonna leave it as it is. So I'm gonna change it to sunshines coming through the walls of a cave, and I'm going to change the guidance scale to 11.5 and see what happens. And now, as you can imagine, because I have increased the guidance scale, it should focus more on the prompt and less on the QR code content, which means the QR code should be a little bit blurry or a little bit mixed into the image. So let's see the output. So there you go. As expected, the QR code is a little bit blurry, and we'll see if it works. So let's save this one as well. Let's play with this for a while. Let's change it to 7.5, which is a recommended value. And let's increase the value of the control net to 1.5 and see what happens. So once we run it, we will have the output which has more focus on the control net weights and less on the guidance scale, and we kept the strength fixed. So as expected, the image is a little bit blurry now, but the QR code is a little bit sharper, at least towards the edge. And let's save this one too. Now let's try something new. Let's say water. I'm going to change it to shiny water, reflecting sunshine and flowing through the mountain. And let's keep it at 1.11, which is something you'll see that they never change even in the examples. They never change the guidance scale, the strength. The examples mostly change the control net conditioning scale. So usually what I found is that the 1.11 works the best. So let's try that. Okay, so the output looks really strange, and I hope this QR code will work, but we will test it. So we do have the shiny water reflecting sunshine and flowing through the mountain, although I don't see the mountains properly, but we might need to tinker with the prompt a little bit. But before that, let's just save this image. Okay, let's try water flowing through trees. Let's run it. Okay, this one is aesthetically more pleasing. So this is one of our good ones that we have generated so far, and it went so far as to create the portion of the QR code that is made of trees as well, which is really interesting to see. So we will save it. You can also play with the seed value. So let's change the seed and run it again. Okay, so it's very similar, but I think it looks a little bit better. So we will try one more time. Another thing to notice is that most parts of this QR code is made of this trees that we have mentioned, which is nice to look at. Let's try another prompt, and this is the last experiment. So let's try something radical. So let's try Nile River flowing through the pyramids on the desert in Egypt. Wow, that looks amazing. So let's try this after we are done with our experiment. So let's just save it for now. Let's try with a different seed. Wow, this one looks even better. I love the structure of this QR code. Most of the portions of this QR code is basically part of the buildings, which is amazing. And we have the river, we have the pyramids and the desert, which looks absolutely stunning. So let's save this one as well. Let's try one more with another seed. Definitely the Nile River is missing. It probably dried out, but we do have the pyramid and the desert. So anyway, let's save this one, the last one. Also, sorry for this quick interruption. I recently realized that only a very small fraction of my viewers have actually subscribed to the channel. So if you can quickly click on the subscribe button, that will give me a lot of encouragement to make good quality videos, and it will help me grow my channel as well. So please do that. And also don't forget to like, and please follow my Awesome Intelligence podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Thank you so much. So what did we learn from this experiment? I think it's safe to say that even though the AI generated QR codes look amazing, the practicality is not there yet. Visually, they look stunning, and the QR code mixes with the image, and in terms of control net and the application of stable diffusion, the application of AI generated QR codes is amazing. But most of the time it fails to detect with QR code readers, which is a problem. And to test my theory, I was attending a conference a few months back, and I took some QR codes with me to share my profile with the attendees, and it turns out most of the time it actually failed, which was a real bummer, because I was hoping to impress everyone with this AI generated QR codes, and even though they were impressed with the visual, when it didn't work, it sort of felt impractical to use them. And on top of that, even when the brightness on my phone was maximum, they weren't still able to scan the QR code, which is a problem. And I thought it works better on a desktop because of the size of the QR code. But then again, as we saw in our experiments, that some of the time it doesn't work. And what's staggering to me is that some of the time when the QR code is really blurry, it still works. But when the QR code is mixed with the environment, then it becomes a little bit of a problem, even though visually it looks like a QR code to us. But for a QR code reader, it doesn't read well. So I think there is scope for improvement. As always, thank you for watching. And if you like this video, please like and share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. Hey, welcome YouTube. Hey YouTube, welcome to AI Nation. Today we are talking about AI generated QR codes, like this. Hey YouTube, welcome to AI Nation. Today we are talking about AI generated QR codes, like this. Why are we talking about this? Because a lot of people have been Hello YouTube, welcome to AI Nation. Today we are talking about AI generated QR codes, like this. Why? Because a lot of people have been asking me about it. Okay, nobody really asked me, but I think they're pretty cool. So I thought I should make a video about it because I have literally nothing else to do on this Sunday morning. So here we are.